Hey Jake, we live in a world that constantly tells us we gotta get validation from others like. We need people to approve of our dreams, to agree with our choices, to hold our hand through every tough spot. Society whispers that we're somehow incomplete without being hooked up to everyone all the time, that solitude is loneliness, and walking alone is a sign we've failed. But what if I told you that some of the greatest warriors in history, not just on battlefields but in life itself, only found their real strength when they learned to stand completely alone? Take Marcus, the Roman emperor and philosopher, for example. He kept a private journal where he wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It's all inside your head, in how you choose to think." Here's a guy ruling over the Roman Empire, with thousands around him. Yet he knew that real power doesn't come from outside. It springs from within, your ability to face yourself without distractions, without someone else's opinion overwhelming your own inner voice. Think about that for a second. Every major breakthrough in your life tends to happen when you finally stop waiting around for permission and start taking your own steps. Every time you grow genuinely, it's because you faced your fears alone, chose courage over comfort, and decided that your vision matters more than others' approval. Now, the wise warrior doesn't walk alone because he hates people. He walks alone because he understands that real connection with others only happens after you connect with yourself first. This isn't about turning cold or disconnected. It's about grounding yourself so deeply in your own values and purpose that you can give out of abundance, not neediness. When you master walking alone, you don't end up lonely, you find true freedom. When you're free from the tiring game of chasing validation, from the prison of others' expectations, you're free to love and serve from the real you. The path of a Stoic warrior isn't easy, but it's the only way to true fulfillment. Today, I want to walk you through 7 powerful principles that will change how you see solitude, how you tackle challenges, and how you build an unshakable inner strength. If what I'm saying hits home, smash that like button, drop a comment sharing your thoughts, and subscribe so you don't miss out on more. Most importantly, don't skip any part of this video. Each principle builds on the last, and you'll need all 7 to really understand what it means to be a true Stoic warrior. Drop this little affirmation in the comments. I walk alone. I rise alone. I win alone. First up, embrace the sacred solitude. The first rule for a warrior is shifting how you see being alone, not as punishment but as a sacred space. Most folks fear being by themselves because they've never learned to enjoy their own company. Instead of sitting peacefully with their thoughts, they fill every quiet moment with noises, scrolling through social media, calling friends, binge-watching stuff, anything to avoid facing themselves. But here's the thing: they don't realize that within that discomfort lies your greatest treasure. Seneca, one of history's top Stoic minds, understood this better than most. Instead of viewing solitude as suffering, he saw it as fertile ground where wisdom could grow. He wrote, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." His loneliness wasn't emptiness. It was the ground where strength and insight took root. When you're truly alone, something miraculous happens. Noisy opinions of others fade away, and the pressure to perform, to please, to pretend all melts into silence. What's left is the raw, real you, stripped of all masks. And for most people, that's pretty terrifying because they've built their entire identity around external validation. But for a warrior, that's liberation. Think back: when was the last time you sat in complete silence with yourself for more than 10 minutes? No phone, no music, no distractions, just your own thoughts. If that sounds unbearable, you're just like most people, afraid of what's inside your mind. But your mind is your most powerful tool. Like any muscle, it needs training, attention, and care. That's what sacred solitude really does. It's where you develop your moral compass. When no one's around to impress or judge you, you get to discover what you truly believe, what you truly value, what your core is made of. In these quiet moments, you can hear the whispers of deep wisdom, the guidance that's often drowned out by endless connection. And the truth is, A true warrior schedules sacred solitude just as they would a training session, protects it fiercely, because they know everything else flows from the clarity and strength built there. Just start small, 5 minutes each morning sitting with yourself, observing your thoughts without judgment. Then gradually increase that time, walk alone without podcasts, eat meals quietly, travel solo. Sometimes solitude doesn't feel empty, it's full of possibility, where ideas are born and courage is cultivated. Number 2, your opinion of me is none of my business. This principle radicalizes how a warrior sees others' judgments. What people think of you is outside your control, so it shouldn't matter. Yet, most spend their lives prisoners to opinions that aren't even theirs, making decisions based on what their parents might think, what their friends might say, or what random strangers on social media might judge. A true warrior sees these invisible chains and breaks free. Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent, and that's a powerful truth." But let's dig deeper. Epictetus, the former slave turned giant of Stoic philosophy, taught that we don't suffer from events themselves but from our judgments about those events. So, if someone criticizes you or disapproves of your choices, they aren't actually hurting you, they're revealing something about themselves. Most people can't handle this truth. Here it is. The person judging your decisions is probably miserable in their own life. The friend doubting your dreams has likely given up on theirs. The family member criticizing you is probably reliving their own fears and regrets through you. Their opinion. It's really about them, not you. That's why a wise warrior develops opinion immunity. This doesn't mean ignoring genuine feedback from people who truly care about your growth. It's about learning to filter out the background noise of those who aren't really invested, but just uncomfortable with your freedom. Think of the last time someone's disapproval really got under your skin. Ask yourself, are they living the life I want? Do they demonstrate the qualities I admire? Are they speaking out of love and wisdom or just their fears? Most times the answer is no, meaning their opinion doesn't really matter. And here's a tough truth. Seeking approval is a losing game because it's never enough. You could make everyone happy, but that one disapproving voice will still bother you. You could reach every goal society tells you to pursue, but someone will always find a way to tear it down. So, the only real opinion that counts is how you see yourself when you look in the mirror at night. Practice this daily. Every time you consider acting based on what others might think, pause and ask, what would I do if nobody was watching? What decision aligns with my values, regardless of others' reactions? Then, go ahead and do it. Number 3, self-reliance isn't selfish. It's essential. The third principle is that genuine self-reliance is the foundation of serving others. Our culture often confuses independence with isolation, self-sufficiency with selfishness. But the truth is, the person who can stand on their own 2 feet is the one who can truly lift others up. You can't give what you don't have, and you can't lead if you haven't gone there alone first. Ralph Waldo Emerson, influenced a lot by Stoic ideas, said, "Nothing can bring you peace but the triumph of principles." Relying on others for your emotional stability or sense of worth makes you vulnerable and weak, not because they're unreliable, but because you've given away your power. Picture that airplane safety instruction: put on your own oxygen mask before helping others. That's not selfish, it's smart. If you pass out helping someone first, now you've both got problems. The same applies to every part of life. When you develop the ability to handle your challenges, you become a source of strength for others, not a drain. That's what I call emotional sovereign, skill of managing your feelings, solving your problems, maintaining peace without constantly depending on others to rescue or validate you. It doesn't mean you never ask for help. It's about asking from a position of strength. Instead of looking for someone to fill your emptiness, you work on becoming whole yourself. That way, your relationships are about mutual growth and genuine love, not neediness. Practically, build this self-reliance across your life. Learn to cook healthy meals, manage your money, control your emotions, strengthen your body, and cultivate your curiosity. But at a higher level, it's about your spiritual independence, developing your own relationship with purpose and truth instead of outsourcing it to leaders, influencers, or traditions. Read the core text yourself. Think deeply about what makes life meaningful, and the key takeaway on your life fully. Stop blaming circumstances or other people. When you take total responsibility, you also claim complete power. One step you can take today is identifying one area where you're overly dependent on others, maybe emotional support or decision-making. Again, make one small move toward independence. The goal isn't to be alone. It's to choose connection rooted in strength, not desperation. Number 4. Failure isn't your enemy, it's your private university. The fourth rule is that a true warrior doesn't just accept failure, they study it carefully. While most people run or make excuses when they fail, the Stoic warrior sits quietly with their setbacks and asks, "What's this trying to teach me?" Remember Edison. When asked about all his attempts to invent the light bulb that didn't work, he said, "I didn't fail 1,000 times. I found 1,000 ways that didn't work." That's the mindset. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's the raw material of success. The key is that most of this process happens alone. When you fail publicly, people give sympathy, advice, sometimes criticism. But the real work, that deep reflection, is something you do privately. You strip away your ego, excuses, external noise, and honestly evaluate what went wrong. I call this a failure audit. After every big setback, spend time alone asking 3 questions. First, what did I control that I could have handled differently? Second, what was outside of my control and I need to accept? Third, what lessons can I take away to make me stronger for next time? This isn't about beating yourself up. It's about learning. Marcus Aurelius dealt with defeats, betrayals, and losses, but he knew that obstacles are lessons in disguise. In his meditations, he wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Every failure is like a tailored course designed to teach you what you need to reach the next level. Most folks avoid this process because it's uncomfortable. Admitting mistakes, recognizing weaknesses, sitting with painful, unmet expectations. But the warrior understands that growth comes only where there's discomfort. They'd rather face the temporary pain of honest self-examination than the longer-term pain of repeating the same mistakes. Here's the paradox. The more willing you are to face failure alone and learn from it, the less you'll have failures that matter. When you process setbacks in private, extract lessons, and adjust, you grow stronger and more resilient. Patterns become clear, like consistently underestimating how long projects take, avoiding tough conversations until they escalate, or making decisions based on emotion rather than reason. Start your own failure practice. Next time something goes sideways, avoid rushing for comfort or distraction. Instead, set some quiet time aside. Write about what happened, what was within your control, what assumptions proved wrong. What would you do differently next time? What new strength did this obstacle give you? Remember, every expert is just someone who's made more mistakes and learned from each of them. Number 5, build your inner fortress. The fifth principle is about creating what the ancients called the inner citadel, unbreakable mental stronghold that stays standing no matter what storms come your way. This isn't about building walls to keep others out, but about crafting a space inside you that no external chaos can invade or destroy unless you allow it. Epictetus, another giant of philosophy, understood this well. He said, "No one can hurt you without your permission." Words worth pondering. Yes, people can cause harm physically, but your core values, character, peace remains yours alone to defend or surrender. Building that fortress starts with understanding impressions versus judgments. An impression is something that happens to you: criticism, financial loss, breakup, health scare. These are often outside your control, but your judgment, what you think about these impressions, what they mean, how they affect your sense of worth, is entirely inside your walls. Most people are totally exposed to every gust of opinion or bad news. They have no fortress at all. When someone cuts you off, their words ruin your day. Plans fall apart and you spiral into despair. Others succeed and you feel diminished. You've given away your inner keys to anyone willing to take them. A real warrior has layered defenses. First, perspective, the ability to see challenges in the bigger picture, in the context of life, history, and impermanence. When someone insults you, remember it says more about them than you. When setbacks happen, see them as passing clouds. They come and go. The second layer is principles, your core values that guide every decision, regardless of external pressure. When you know what you stand for, no one can shake you. The third layer is what I call your unshakable identity, or understanding that you are not your circumstances, roles, possessions, or even your fleeting thoughts and feelings. You are the observer, the consciousness behind all that. This core self cannot be touched by outside events. Strengthening this inner fortress is a daily task. Every time you choose your response over reacting automatically, you reinforce those walls. Every act aligned with your deepest values adds to the foundation. When you find peace in chaos, you make your inner sanctuary bigger. And yes, this fortress has ways to connect with others, serve the world in your terms, not theirs. The warrior's strength is that the more solid and resilient their inner fortress becomes, the more they can be generous, help others, and share love freely. A secure warrior doesn't need constant validation or approval, so they can honestly compliment, help, and celebrate others without envy. Start by identifying one area where you rely too much on external approval. Maybe your mood hinges on others' opinions, or your self-esteem depends on achievements. Practice maintaining your inner peace there, even when outside chaos hits. Remember, life will always throw storms your way. The question is, do you have a fortress strong enough to endure them all while staying true to your values? Number 6. The courage to disappoint. This might be the hardest principle, being willing to disappoint others so you can stay true to yourself. It's not about being mean or careless. It's realizing that trying to keep everyone happy is impossible and, honestly, a betrayal of your authentic self. Aristotle once said, to avoid criticism, say nothing, do nothing, be nothing. The Stoic warrior flips that concept on its head. They know that living authentically means sometimes making people disappointed in your choice, disagreeing with their expectations, setting boundaries, or sticking to your values, even if it ruffles feathers. They've made peace with the fact that some folks will be upset, and that's okay. Because pretending to be what others want isn't just exhausting, it's a lie. Trying to be liked by everyone results in a life where you're constantly sacrificing yourself. Most people are terrified of disappointing others because they've confused being liked with being respected and being accommodating with being valuable. They say yes when they want to say no. They chase goals that aren't theirs. They stay in draining relationships just to avoid conflict. But here's a paradox. People respect you more, actually admire you more when you have clear boundaries. Disappointment, in this sense, is often a sign you're on the right track. When you choose your values over others' opinions, some people will be disappointed. When you pursue an authentic life, people who want you to be different will be upset. When you set healthy boundaries instead of being endlessly available, some will be annoyed. That's strategic disappointment, a conscious decision to let some people down now, to stay aligned with your purpose and integrity later. Think of a parent pushing their kid into a career the kid doesn't want. The child faces a choice: disappoint the parent by following their own path or disappoint themselves by living someone else's dream. The wise person chooses to disappoint the parent because they understand that living inauthentically ultimately harms everyone, including the parent who wanted happiness for their child. This idea extends to daily life, saying no to social events you don't want to attend, passing up gossip, or sticking to your standards even if others think you're being too picky. Every act of strategic disappointment builds your courage muscle. It's about choosing where to put your energy. Some battles are worth fighting and some aren't. Sometimes You have to value integrity over approval. And the truth is, the people who truly love you want you to be authentic, even if that honesty disappoints them sometimes. They'd rather know the real you and disagree now and then than love a fake version you put on just to keep the peace. Start small next time someone asks you to do something that doesn't align with your values. Say no kindly but firmly. Notice that the world doesn't fall apart. You might find your relationships transform, they become more honest, more meaningful because they're based on truth, not pretense. Finally, victory through self-mastery. The seventh and final principle, big one, is that the only true victory is mastering yourself. While everyone else is obsessed with beating others, piling up material stuff, or chasing fame, the real warrior knows that the ultimate conquest is over your own mind, emotions, and impulses. Think of Lao Tzu's words: he who conquers others is strong. He who conquers himself is mighty. That's where real power lies. Not through force or aggression, but through quiet strength, self-discipline, emotional regulation, and deliberate choices. Self-mastery isn't about shutting down your humanity or becoming emotionless. It's about becoming the director of your inner life rather than its victim. It's the difference between being ruled by your feelings and using your feelings as signals. It's about observing your thoughts rather than being controlled by them. Every day is full of opportunities for this kind of victory. When someone cuts you off in traffic, do you rage or pause? When criticized, do you feel the urge to lash out or take a moment to reflect? When temptations come to procrastinate, do you give in or stick to your long-term goals? These moments, small as they seem, are actually where your inner power is built. By choosing your response instead of reacting on autopilot, you strengthen what the Stoics called your ruling faculty, or capacity for conscious choice. Every victory here, every moment you exercise patience or act wisely, makes you stronger. It's the kind of power no one can take from you because it's rooted in your inner discipline. And it's not just about resisting external temptations. It's about mastering desire itself, knowing the difference between healthy ambition and obsessive attachment. Wanting things without being controlled by that want. Working toward goals without losing your peace if they don't pan out, that's mastery. Connecting all these dots. Solitude gives you self-awareness. Independence supplies authenticity. Self-reliance builds strength. Learning from failures deepens wisdom. Strengthening your inner fortress guards your peace. Accepting disappointment prepares you for authenticity. And self-mastery puts you in charge of your destiny. When you succeed at all these, you walk alone, not because you're antisocial, but because you're self-sufficient. You rise alone, not because you're selfish, but because you're strong enough to serve others. You win alone, not because you don't care, but because your victory is rooted in character that no external force can take away. The world needs more people who have done the inner work, those who stand proudly in their truth without asking others for permission, those who love fiercely without attachment and serve genuinely without expectation. The world needs fire-hearted warriors with calm minds. If this message hits home, like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and drop your favorite principle in the comments. Be sure to subscribe for more ancient wisdom that can transform your modern life. Start your journey to identify one pattern of automatic reaction in your life and practice choosing differently. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I am the master of my own mind, emotions, and destiny. Remember, walking alone doesn't mean being lonely. It means being free. Rising alone doesn't mean being selfish. It means being strong enough to lift others. Winning alone doesn't mean not caring. It's becoming so rooted in who you are that no external force can take it away.